Welcome, everybody, to the Sleeper Wire Show. Today is Valentine's Day. That's right, the most romantic fantasy football podcast day of the year. I'm your host, Professor Chris, and with me I got Dirty Jobs Mike. What's up, man?
Not much. How we doing this evening? Happy Valentine's Day, Chris.
Happy Valentine's Day to you as well. This is the first one I don't get to spend with my wife since we've been married.
Oh, man. That's too bad right there. That's always too bad. It's a shame when you got to spend Valentine's Day apart.
Yep, certainly is. And you know what the worst part is? I have to pay delivery fee on flowers instead of just bringing them myself.
Oh, that's the worst.
It is the worst. Well, keeping in the spirit of Valentine's Day, we're going to kick it off with a couple questions here. Mike, who is your fantasy Valentine for 2018? And I want it to be a guy who is currently fourth round ADP or later.
The guy who really sticks out to me that's getting a very late run is Dez Bryant. And I think with that team next year with Ezekiel Elliott not having a suspension looming over his head, they'll actually be able to focus on nothing but football. I think it's going to be very exciting. I think a lot of the pieces of that offense are going to really start to click, and he's one of the best receivers in the game. So I'm really into Dez Bryant right now.
Yeah, seems like a lot of people are going to be really low on him, and you might be able to get him fourth round right now? Is that where he's currently going?
Yeah, he's going about 44 to 48, somewhere in that window. So, I mean, man, that's a steal. To me, he's a second rounder all day, and you're getting him that late. Yes, please.
Yeah, current ADP has him as the 504 in a 12-team PPR.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're certainly going to be able to get him on a lot of leagues. My fantasy Valentine, the guy I'm asking to be mine for this 2018 season, is Marquise Goodwin. And he's currently going around the 10th round. And if you just take a look back at what he did last season, once Jimmy Garoppolo got to San Francisco, he was phenomenal. 4 for 78 in the first game, then 8 for 99, 6 for 106, 10 for 114 in your fantasy football semifinals. He had a bad week 16, 3 for 37, but that was against Jacksonville. And, 49ers don't have any other wide receivers. Who's Jalen Ramsey going to cover? I think Goodwin is going to be great this year.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic pick right there. I think he's got a lot to look forward to with that guy, Garoppolo, getting that huge contract. I think things are going to really start looking up in San Francisco this year.
Yeah, it's looking good, especially since Jimmy Garoppolo has never lost a game.
Absolutely. Undefeated.
Keep it going, Jimmy. San Francisco needs to be back on top in the NFC. All right, well, let's go ahead and move to the opposite side of the question, though. Who is your anti-Valentine for 2018? Which guy are you saying you are not going to be on any of my rosters?
So the guy who I really am not liking this year is Marshawn Lynch. He seems like he's getting a high enough ADP, like he's going in the middle of the fourth, late fifth, or early fifth, and he's just, I don't know, I just don't see very many opportunities with him being able to carry the ball like he used to. He's getting so much older, and I don't see that offense going up. I actually kind of see it getting back into frazzles again. I mean, that was their year to actually do something, and they just didn't do it. So for me, Marshawn Lynch, he's off my radar next year. I'm not even, maybe if I can get that guy in like the 13th, 14th where he belongs, I'd do it. But in the middle of the fourth, fifth, that's not going to happen for me.
13th round, huh?
That's about where I'd take him. That's about where I see his production lining up.
Wow, that's a bold statement. So you
Especially
don't think
next year being so running back heavy, it's going to be crazy.
Yep, absolutely. And we're going to get into that here in a little bit because we are actually doing a mock draft tonight. We're going to do the first 5 rounds of a 12-team PPR. We don't need to do the whole thing. We don't have rookies in there yet or not, but we're going to look at some of the ADP trends so far. My anti-Valentine, Alex Collins. I know a lot of people loved him last year. There was a stretch where he had 5 touchdowns in 4 games, but he was pretty inconsistent outside of that. And I'm not going to count his first few games when he wasn't the starter. But the Ravens are committed to Kenneth Dixon. For some reason, they still like the guy. They have no reason to not give him every chance like they would with Alex Collins. And don't they still have Danny Woodhead?
Yeah, and Danny Woodhead should be back next year.
Yeah.
and healthy. So, I mean, he's going to be eating up a lot of that production. I tend to agree with you on that. I think Alex Collins is a great pick.
You think he is a great pick?
A great pick for your anti-Valentine.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, he's currently going at the 506, and that's just a little bit too high for me with the team that already had a lot of running backs, and they're getting one back who they really like.
Right.
All right, let's go ahead and kick it off with some news here. So a little bit of old news. The 49ers signed Jimmy Garoppolo to a 5-year, $137.5 million contract, the most annual amount of money per year. I guess that's what annual means, right? The most amount of money per year for any player in NFL history.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I think that's maybe a bit much because you didn't have any tape on the guy going into the end of last year. So, I mean, you kind of had an enigma waiting for you. Well, now you got 3 or 4 games of him sitting playing football. He's going to be seeing a different situation next year. I can almost guarantee he's not going to go undefeated for his whole career. But kudos, good job. I think that's what they need to do is solidify some pieces like that, build up around them, and I think San Francisco actually has a fighting chance.
You know, if he has a career-ending injury this summer, which we hope doesn't happen, but he will have an undefeated career.
That's true. This is true.
Don't strive for that, Jimmy G.
Right.
In other 49ers news, middle linebacker Reuben Foster was arrested Sunday on domestic violence and weapons charges. So 2 birds with 1 stone. That is not a good sign.
Yeah, nope, that's one, I think.
Yeah, that's one. Actually, yeah, last week Hoos and I made a bet, and I said that less than 5 NFL players would get arrested this offseason. and then, of course, 3 days later, Reuben Foster does this, and I'm like, oh, man. Oh, only 3 left.
Yep.
Only 3 left. Kareem Hunt was accused of shoving and pushing a 19-year-old girl this past weekend, but if you read the story, it looks like he found out that she was 19 at a party and then tried to get her to leave because she was underage. And then multiple witnesses said that she started hurling racial slurs at him and shoving other girls at the party. Did you hear anything else on this?
I did not. No, I heard exactly what you just said right there. And, I mean, you got to understand in this day and age where we're seeing a lot of accusations being thrown around out there. I mean, it's so easy to be able to get caught up in it and say this is happening in every single instance. But there's going to be instances where people are also doing this just so they can make money.
Yep, that is going to happen. And unfortunately, it's hard to, sort the truth from the lies when it comes to things like this. But let's go ahead and wait till reserve judgment until we see if TMZ has a video on this.
There you go. There you go.
Because if it happened, they did.
That's it.
They did. All right, so I think that was a little bit of non-news, but more of just a story that could keep developing, something that we will keep you updated on. Moving towards your team, Mike, the Broncos. ESPN Broncos reporter Jeff Legwold believes the Broncos will either release or trade C.J. Anderson this offseason and then just stick with Devontae Booker as their lead back in 2018. How do you feel about that as a Broncos fan?
Cue the hallelujah button. Finally, get rid of that guy. Gosh. I like C.J. Anderson weeks 1 and 3 and weeks 15 and 16. That seems to be the 4 weeks he seems to produce. Other than that, man, he's just a fantasy wasteland. And he's so good, and he just doesn't get the opportunity to be good. Maybe he'll have a better situation and a better look somewhere else, but I did not like him on the Broncos. And I really like Devontae Booker. I think he's got a really good future there.
I did not realize that C.J. Anderson was a 1,000-yard rusher last year.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, especially with that offense being as stagnant as it was.
Yeah, you weren't wrong. I'm looking at PPR right here. Weeks 2 and 4 were pretty solid. Week 2 was phenomenal. But then he had a stretch from after the bye week in week 5 from week 6 to basically week 15. He only had 1 double-digit game, and that's because he scored a touchdown.
Right. Yep. But like I said, weeks 1 through 3, and then the final end of the season, he usually does pretty good. But in the middle, you play him, then you start getting kind of like, and then by the time he takes off again, he's either on the waiver wire or he's on your bench.
Yeah, you got 30 for 158 in your semifinals.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And if you were in a league where you get any type of point per rush, even half point or a quarter point, I have actually a half point per rush league. He probably won you that game. Remember that snow game that the Colts and the Bills played?
Yeah, that was awesome.
I actually, in this league where I get a half point for every rushing attempt, I started Frank Gore that week. And I think I picked him over Alshon in the flex because I knew Gore was going to get the work. And he got 32 carries. That's 16 points just off running the ball alone.
Jeez.
Moving on, Albert Breer of MMQB believes that Rob Gronkowski's rumblings about retirement may actually be real. We talked about this on the show last week about how, Gronk's not going to retire. This is just him feeling down after the Super Bowl. But this is the second time we've seen something that Gronk might actually be considering retirement. Do you think he's leaning that way?
Given his injury history and everything, and I mean, he had a good, solid season, I figure not winning the Super Bowl probably hinders that a little bit because the guy wants to go out on a high note, right? And I mean, I'm sure him and Brady are going to want to go for one last hurrah, one last attempt at it. So I have a tough time thinking he does retire, but I could see it. It wouldn't surprise me given his injury history, but I just don't think he will. I don't think that they're going to. If they would have won the Super Bowl, no doubt. But since they didn't, I think he comes back for one more.
Yeah, I think he does too. He's going into his age 29 season, which is not super old for a tight end.
Right.
We look at guys like Jason Witten and Tony Gonzalez. I realize I'm talking about some all-time greats here, but guys who played well into their 30s.
Well, who's greater than Gronk? That guy's just the most amazing tight end in history, in my opinion. I mean, he made it a dominant monster position. And so for me, the guy's a future Hall of Famer. Come on, give it a few more years. You can do it. But again, back injuries and concussions, those are things that maybe it's time to call it quits.
Did you hear that he might consider being an actor?
I can see it. He's got the following for it. For sure.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he would. I can't even imagine what kind of role he's going to play. Picture a D-list movie that would like to cast The Rock, but they can only get Gronk. That's what it seems like to me.
Right. I imagine Will Ferrell will be a part of it too. I could see that. Rob Gronkowski.
I could totally see that. In other Patriots news, Boston Herald's Jeff Howe reported that Dion Lewis likely won't be on the Patriots. There's an early vibe that he won't be there next season, and he is a free agent.
I mean, they just really don't have room for him. They've got so many pieces in that backfield. I'm excited. I think Dion Lewis going somewhere else makes his fantasy value skyrocket for me.
Well, what about Rex Burkhead, though? He's a free agent as well. They only signed him to a one-year deal.
I think he comes back.
Okay, so you'd like to see him back in New England?
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's not really as relevant as Dion Lewis. I don't think he's as good. I think Dion Lewis's biggest thing is being able to catch the ball and just the way he's just tenacious. He's a beast. He was one of my Dirty Jobs Players of the Year last year, and that really paid off. So I'm thinking that Rex Burkhead just isn't as important of a piece. I think you get Dion Lewis on a team like the Broncos or something like that. He can make an immediate impact.
Yeah, absolutely, especially if they bring in Cousins.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, for sure. The Colts hired Frank Reich, the Eagles' offensive coordinator from this past 2012 season, to a 5-year deal to be the head coach, which I love.
Yeah.
Yep. I absolutely love this signing. We could see that the Eagles' offense had been trending up for a couple years, and Frank Reich just had an amazing offense last year for that Philadelphia team. And I'm also glad that we have a guy here in Indy who wants to be here.
Right, and I think you really dodged a bullet on that McDaniels thing. I think you guys should have all made a collective sigh of relief. We don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I just wish we didn't already hire his coaches.
Right. Yep, that is kind of bad right there. The fact that he got his whole staff there already.
Yeah.
But he's an offensive mind. It's probably not a bad thing to have a lot of those pieces there.
No, I think this is a great hire. So I'm really looking forward to what he can do. Honestly, anybody but Jeff Fisher would have been better than Pagano. So I would have been okay with McDaniels, but I'm more excited about this for sure.
I like how you throw the Jeff Fisher clause because that's the one guy that I can think of that is worse.
Couple last pieces of news here. CJ Fedorowicz has admitted that he is considering retirement due to all the concussion issues, which I don't know if there are very many players who've had more severe concussion injuries and missed longer periods of time than he has due to concussions. So honestly, this is probably the right call for him for his future health. Little bit of hype here. Johnny Manziel has signed with the Spring League. He's going to report there on March 28th and play until it closes at April 15th. And as of right now, more than 20 team scouts are going to be there watching him play.
I mean, he was a great quarterback in college. Maybe he'll be a has-been and he will never do anything. But I really like his arm strength, and I always liked how he was able to get out of a pocket and run out of a situation. I like Johnny Manziel. I think this will be. I hope he is able to play football again.
Yeah, he was so exciting to watch when he was in college, even when he was on the Browns. I mean, there were a couple times where he made some really big plays with his legs because he had to. But, there's been times where he looked really good. I honestly don't think he's going to play in the NFL again. I'm surprised he went for the Spring League instead of the CFL. I felt like that was going to be a better route for him, but, maybe we'll see him this season. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for the news. Let's go ahead and move into our mock draft. All right, so 12-team PPR mock draft starting here in just a couple seconds. Mike has the number 3 pick. I am taking the 11th pick, and it looks like we have one other person drafting with us as well. So kicking off this mock draft, first pick Todd Gurley, second pick David Johnson, Mike with the third pick.
And we're going with Ezekiel Elliott because he is going to be the man to have next year.
I 100% agree. Le'Veon Bell goes fourth. Boneyard. I like that name.
Boneyard.
Yep. Antonio Brown with the 5th pick. Alvin Kamara at 6. Leonard Fournette at 7. DeAndre Hopkins 8. Kareem Hunt 9. Julio Jones at 10. And the guy I was hoping would fall all the way to 11, to me, one of my favorite players in fantasy football, Melvin Gordon.
Nice.
At the 11, I love that spot. Finishing out the first round, Odell Beckham Jr., and on the turn, also getting Michael Thomas to start the second round. And at the 202, I'm looking at Dalvin Cook and LaShawn McCoy, but also considering maybe getting my first wide receiver in Keenan Allen. But you know what? I'm going to take a flyer. I think Dalvin Cook bounces back from that ACL tear. So I'm going to take Dalvin Cook at the 202.
I think that's a great pick right there. I think he's going to be just as good as he was. I mean, sure, he had an injury, but you can't count on an injury every time.
Right. Absolutely. So at the 203, A.J. Green, Keenan Allen, LaShawn McCoy, Devonta Freeman, Mark Ingram, and back to Boneyard at the 5th spot, Jordan Howard, Christian McCaffrey, and Mike. Back to you with the 210.
And we're going to go with somebody who I've got a lot of faith in next year. I think that the running back situation is a little less muddled. I'm taking me some Joe Mixon in the second.
You know what? I'm totally okay with that. I like that pick.
Yeah, I think he's a lot better next year than he was this year, and I feel like he was really starting to get stuff going this year.
Well, and looking at the other running backs who were available behind him, Carlos Hyde is maybe the only guy I would have taken over him, but even then I still think I lean Joe Mixon. But finishing out that second round, after your 210 Joe Mixon pick, finish out the second with Devontae Adams and Mike Evans. Last pick in the second round for Evans. Man, he's fallen.
Yeah, and he should. He did horrible last year.
He was so bad. Carlos Hyde kicking off the third round. Tyreek Hill. Mike, you took Jarvis Landry. So you got Zeke, Mixon, and Landry. I like that. T.Y. Hilton, Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Watson, Rob Gronkowski, Adam Thielen, Brandon Cooks, Aaron Rodgers. Back to me with the 311. And not loving this. I had a few guys that I was like, oh, they'll make it back to me. And they did not. I'm going to reach down, and I was really hoping Alshon was going to be here for me. I think Doug Baldwin has a good year this year.
Yep, I like Doug Baldwin. I got asked to be in a keeper league with one of my brother-in-law's team, and he said, he goes, well, you got a pretty crappy team. He goes, I'm not going to lie. I have Doug Baldwin in the 17th. And I can keep 4, and he's obviously one of the people I'm going to keep. But can you imagine? That's going to be my draft next year. I'm drafting Doug Baldwin, 17th.
That is nuts.
Oh, I'm loving it. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is a terrible team. I'm like, I'm going to destroy you guys next year.
After Baldwin, Derrick Henry finished off the third round. Starting the fourth round, Travis Kelce, and I am taking Golden Tate. You're going to see me take Golden Tate in a lot of mock drafts. I just love that guy in PPR. I think he's a great wide receiver, too.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and you're getting him at the perfect value, too.
Yep. Fourth round, I think that's great. At the 403, Jay Ajayi. 404, Josh Gordon. After that, Lamar Miller in the fourth round, which seems high, but I guess it's really not given all the running back talent that's already off the board.
Right. Absolutely.
Then Larry Fitzgerald, Jordy Nelson, Allen Robinson in the fourth round, which I think is a pretty good value as well. Zach Ertz in the fourth, which, tight ends, this is early for them, third and fourth round for most of them, but Ertz has earned his spot as being drafted in the top 5 rounds.
Right. Yeah.
He's just amazing.
Which sucks. I wish he wouldn't, I like him super late like I was getting him last year, but he earned it. He definitely is he's definitely not a bad guy to have right there.
No, certainly not. Mike, you took Stephon Diggs with the 410. Carson Wentz and Michael Crabtree round out the fourth. Starting the fifth, we have Russell Wilson, Demaryius Thomas. And Mike, your last pick in this mock draft, because we're only doing the first 5 rounds.
I'm just having a tough time because I'm going running back right here. But I don't like Collins. I don't like Anderson. I mean, the ones that are available are guys that I have like zero expectations of actually producing next year. So I'm going to go with Ty Montgomery because it's PPR, and I have a feeling he's going to be a PPR beast next year.
Yeah, I was looking down. Just the next guy who I would like over Alex Collins would have been Kenyon Drake and Duke Johnson.
Yeah, Duke Johnson. I really like his future too. I think I think he's going to be a load in that backfield next year if they don't draft anybody, which I think they might draft somebody, which I think will still make it Duke Johnson number 1 running back.
Yep, I can agree with that. And with my 5th pick, we'll catch up on the draft here after I make my pick here real quick. I think I'm looking at wide receiver, but I'm not really seeing a whole lot that I like in this. I think I'm going to take a flyer on Juju Smith-Schuster in the 5th round.
That's not bad. That's not a bad pickup right there.
I was debating either Watkins or Juju, and because I don't know why I like Watkins so much. It doesn't make sense to me either. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either.
Okay, well, as long as we're both on that page.
Yeah, we certainly are. Now, I also would have taken Robbie Anderson there if I knew McCown was going to be the quarterback.
Right. And if there was not going to be any repercussions.
Yeah, and that he was going to be a free man.
Yeah.
All right, so let me go ahead and finish out this 5th round for you here. Mike took Ty Montgomery at the 503, and then it went Amari Cooper, which I think is great in the 5th round, Chris Thompson, Greg Olsen, Des Bryant, Delaney Walker, Tom Brady in the 5th, which is something you don't see very often, DeMarco Murray, I took Juju, and then CJ Anderson rounded out the 5th, which I feel like is a little bit early. So let's go ahead and break down our 2 teams here. So, Mike, you've got Ezekiel Elliott, Nixon, Jarvis Landry, Stephon Diggs, and Ty Montgomery.
I think that's a PPR machine right there.
Yes, very, very much so.
And, this is 12-team. I'm very happy with going with that core as a 12-team because really after the 5th round, to me, you start getting into your fluff players. The players that you're not really counting on to making you the impact that you need them to make. So, I really feel like the first 5 rounds is where you get your core set at the very least.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, how do you feel about Jarvis Landry maybe not being a Dolphin next year?
I feel like he's got talent that goes anywhere. I feel like I don't feel like it's a situational. I mean, to me, you can almost only improve off of Tannehill. So, I mean, I think you're going to be getting a better system, quite possibly. I mean, you could get thrown on a crappy team, too, like the Bills, and be in a way worse situation. So it just kind of depends on where he lands. But I think his talent can overdo wherever he goes.
Yeah, and he is looking for that big contract. And since he's an unrestricted free agent, which I believe he's unrestricted, isn't he? He's a UFA.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, he is.
If this isn't going to be he's just going to get thrown on a team, he gets to choose where he goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Landry, I do agree, the talent is 100% there. 100-plus catches, led the NFL with 112 this season, career high with 9 touchdowns. Just a monster year for Jarvis Landry. I absolutely loved having him. I'm not sure about your Ty Montgomery pick because I do think that they'll start moving towards Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams and maybe get Montgomery back in the slot.
Right. See, and I feel like that could happen, but as it stands, if he's coming out of as a running back, I'm actually okay with that flexibility of him going to the slot.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly can do great things for the running back position in Green Bay. I mean, we saw it at the beginning of last season. He was awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't imagine that, once again, I mean, we're only doing 5 rounds here. It was so tough to pick a running back right there because all the great running backs are already off the board. This is going to be how it goes this year. Like, this is all the running backs that you want are going to be gone in the first 2 rounds.
Right, and that's probably how I'm going to be leaning towards drafting this year because ADPs are going to change a lot. But you know who wasn't really in here are the rookies. Saquon Barkley, depending on where he goes, could be a first-round pick.
Absolutely, and I mean, especially after the impact of the rookie this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that in 12-team leagues, only Brown and Hopkins are going to be the only wide receivers drafted in the first round. You're going to have 10 running backs drafted.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, something that's really unheard of. And, it's why I took 2 running backs to start. I really wanted A.J. Green in the second round. I feel like that's awesome value for what A.J. Green can do. I took Melvin Gordon in the first because I just absolutely love Gordon. But I had to pass on Green because I know that if I didn't take a second RB1 there, it wasn't getting back around to me. And if I looked at it, Derrick Henry was the next guy who made it back to me. With McCoy, Freeman, Ingram, Howard, McCaffrey, Mixon, and Hyde, I would have had Henry as my second running back.
Right, yep, and so Dalvin Cook was definitely the move to make there.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. So like I said, Melvin Gordon, Dalvin Cook, Doug Baldwin, Golden Tate, and Juju. Would you have done anything different at these picks?
No, I really liked your picks. I think that's a great setup right there. I'm with you. I think Doug Baldwin has a fantastic season. Golden Tate, I don't expect him to go up or down, just the same. I'm going to put up 1,000 yards. I'm going to put up like 7-8 touchdowns. I'm just going to be a great fantasy option for PPR. And I think Juju's just I think that's where you're going to see him going because, I mean, he is the wide receiver, too, in Pittsburgh. And, I mean, that's a high-octane offense. You want to get as many pieces of that puzzle as you can get. So, I mean, yeah, for me, that's about perfect. I think 5th round Juju Smith, I think that's a great value. I think you're going to get a good payoff with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Juju was just phenomenal last year. Once he became a regular player, he was incredible.
Yeah, once he knew he was on the field, yeah, and especially towards the end of the year, he really was rocking it.
Yeah, those last 3 games, 6 for 114, 6 for 75 and a touchdown. And then if you played a Week 17 championship, 9 for 143 and a touchdown. That's huge.
Yeah, monster.
And that, he was doing that with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell taking touches away as well.
And doing about the same numbers.
Yeah. Juju is he is a very, very impressive young wide receiver, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do this season. And Mike, you really should agree with all the picks that I made because I am the reigning Sleeper Wire champion. That means I just get to have bragging rights for the entire year.
Oh, we have to do this all year long.
Oh, yeah. About once a week this offseason, I'm just going to send a message to all of you guys and be like, hey, you remember who won this year?
Yeah. Send it in, like, different forms. Like, you like to send it in a knock-knock joke one week. Like, knock-knock, who's there? Me, your champion.
Oh, that would be awesome. Thanks for the idea. I'm going to do that.
That's what we do. I'm an ideas guy.
So as we look through these first 5 rounds, are there any picks that stick out to you? Ones like, oh, that was way too early, or, that guy got drafted way too late. I think, personally, Deshaun Watson in the 3rd, I think that's crazy. I still think Aaron Rodgers deserves to be the first quarterback taken, not Deshaun Watson. Even though Watson was amazing last year at the beginning of the season, I still don't think he's worth that 3rd-round pick. I don't think he's worth more than Carson Wentz.
Right. No, I agree with. I don't know. I think he is worth more than Carson Wentz just because it is the running ability that he brings to the table. I don't know that I necessarily agree with him in the third, but I do think that if you want him, you're going to have to pay the third round price for the guy. The one guy who really kind of surprised me is Julio Jones, still going first round.
Yeah, he went there now. I was looking at his ADP, and his ADP is actually the 202.
Yeah, see, and
so
that
this
to
one's
me
taking
is
a little
still too early. Still
Really?
too early. 202, yeah.
Now,
And the
if
guy
I had
just has been miserable.
no, he still finished as a wide receiver 1.
He did, but I mean, you didn't get that on your fantasy team.
He was the
Like,
wide receiver 7.
He had big games with big numbers, like he had big yardage, but I think he only had 3 touchdowns all season long.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, and 2 of them came in that massive game. I actually misspoke earlier. Jarvis Landry, I said he was the number 7, who's actually the number 5.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to check that
And that
real
was with
quick.
Jay Cutler. Wrap your mind around that. With smoking Jay Cutler,
Yep.
he was the number 5. Now imagine giving him somebody like, say, Deshaun Watson. Look out. Like, I mean, he won't go there,
Andrew
obviously.
Luck.
Ooh, yeah. No, let's not get all crazy, Todd.
Let me
Andrew Luck.
fantasize about that.
That would actually be perfect. That would be a great combo right there.
And you know, with all those little quick passes, he would be a great fit in New England as well, because that's what Brady does best, is just throw little dink and dunk passes.
That's it. Yep.
Yep. Or maybe even Kirk Cousins does that too. So maybe Landry to the Redskins?
Well, Kirk Cousins probably not going to be a Redskin, right?
Very
Alex
true.
Smith.
Yep. Yeah, I know. Just giving some hype. But, you know, Mahomes already has – we talked about this on last week's show. The weapons, he has arguably a top 5 at every position to throw to or to give the ball to. Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. So if you put Jarvis Landry on that team in Kansas City,
yeah, they'll win.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. So looking back over a couple of things about the draft board here real quick. Russell Wilson, I still think, is being disrespected, being drafted as the 4th quarterback after he's finished as the QB1, or at least close to the QB1, multiple seasons in a row. He definitely was the QB1 last year, and I think he deserves to be drafted as such. 5th round is where I would probably take him if he was available, but I would still take Wilson over Watson.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would take Watson over Wilson. I think I'd take Wentz and Rodgers, but I think I take him over Tom. I think I take Russell Wilson over Tom Brady.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep.
But I think I like Wentz. I think I like Watson and Rodgers more. That's my top 3 guys next year for quarterbacks.
I got you.
But I don't want to draft those guys because I don't want to pay the early price. I like Garoppolo late. Cousins late, depending on where he's at. I think a lot of people probably forgot about Andrew Luck.
He will be slept on.
Yep, he will. He'll drop way down.
Yep, he is someone I will be looking for in every single league. If he's playing in the preseason, then yeah, he's going to be on every one of my rosters. If he's still going in the 10th round, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one last thing, really, the one last pick that I thought was questionable was Delaney Walker in the 5th.
Yeah, that's crazy talk.
That sounds pretty ridiculous.
I just think, I mean, look who went right after him, Des Bryant. So who would you rather have, Des Bryant or Delaney Walker?
Certainly.
I'd take Des Bryant all day long. Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly. But there were a bunch of tight ends drafted after Walker I would have taken before him. Jack Doyle, for sure. Kyle Rudolph, I would have taken before him. Evan Engram, who's drafted in the 12th as of right now, I would have taken ahead of him. I'd take Cameron Brate. Hunter Henry, I would also take. Yep. Jimmy Graham, it depends on the situation, but I would still likely take Jimmy Graham over Delaney Walker because Walker's been trending down for 4 straight seasons.
Yeah. Nope, he just hasn't been doing it the way he used to do it. And not to mention they're starting to get more weapons on that team. So it just they're not needing to rely on the tight end the way they used to have to.
Yep, absolutely. So 5th round, way too early for Delaney Walker, and maybe C.J. Anderson as well. Probably would have taken Kenyon Drake and Deion Lewis over him.
Yep, same here. It's
now,
how do you
feel about Isaiah Crowell as currently an 8th round ADP?
You know, it depends on where he lands, but if he stays in Cleveland, I think that's about perfect. He just doesn't have that big, awesome season potential to me. He has the I can get you the 3 yards every carry, type thing. I mean, he's that guy. They just doesn't seem to get the scoring opportunities. The Browns is one of those enigma teams, and they need to do a lot of work in the offseason before I can start getting sold on a lot of their pieces. Yeah,
and Crowell is just, he'll do the 3 yards per carry, and then he'll bust a 75-yard touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, the talent's there. It's just the team isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was probably, fantasy analysts in general worst call last season because he was going 3rd round.
Yep, absolutely. Everybody was high on him.
Yep, I know I was. Thought, the Browns, they're going to have a top 5 offensive line. They added so many good pieces. They're going to be good on offense, or at least Corey Coleman and Duke Johnson are going to help spread out the ball receiving-wise. And actually, I did not think they were going to get Josh Gordon back. I didn't think that was going to happen at all. But I did think Isaiah Crowell was going to finish as a top 10 running back. I thought he had that opportunity to finish as an RB1, and lo and behold, Duke Johnson finishes as an RB1.
Yep, that was kind of crazy.
Yep, only in PPR. He didn't do it in standard, but in PPR, I think he was the RB11.
Yes. I believe you're correct. And, I mean, the guy is a monster, and I've been excited for him for years, and he finally produced. And I really feel like, they showed that they're going to kind of try to move things in that direction. So.
Yeah, 80 catches, or not 80 catches. That was McCaffrey, 74 catches for 693 and 3 touchdowns. That's pretty great. And look at this. Zeke actually finishes the RB12. And he missed 6 games. That's pretty incredible.
That's why he's my first-round pick.
Yeah, that's as he should be. But last week we started a mini segment called the second-year quarterbacks. So we've got 2 year 2 QBs. Last week we did Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Kaiser. Today we've got Deshaun Watson and Mitchell Trubisky. So let's talk about Watson first. We already talked about him a little bit as to where we would draft him, but the guy was just a machine last year. Once Tom Savage, was terrible in the first half of the first game, they're like, you know what? Maybe we need to bring in Deshaun Watson and see if he's the guy that we drafted him to be. And once he took hold of the reins in week 3, he didn't look back until he got the injury.
Yeah, and off game. I mean, it wasn't even during a game. It was during practice. So that was the worst part. But yeah. I mean, the guy is just such a huge fantasy impact. I mean, Lamar Miller was fantasy relevant. Look what Will Fuller was doing with Deshaun Watson. DeAndre Hopkins never really skipped a beat, but you really didn't notice his 2 to 3 touchdown games that were happening with the guy. I mean, the guy is just a touchdown machine. Yeah. That's why I love Deshaun Watson.
He was very huge. I actually had a trade offer to get him last year. In the Sleeper Wire Pro-Am, we lost Aaron Rodgers, which was a huge bummer. Still finished at the top of our division, got a bye week, but we lost Aaron Rodgers. So the Fantasy Football Fellas offered us a trade. Shout out to them. They are awesome guys over there, put on a good show. Offered us a trade into our Antonio Brown for Deshaun Watson and Michael Thomas. And we almost took it. And this was right after week 8. And then after, maybe a day after we declined the trade, Watson got injured.
Yeah, I remember that. That was so close. I want to say we were still even thinking about it when he got injured, but...
Yeah, we stopped thinking about that. I believe we were going to do the trade if they had offered Wilson and Michael Thomas. I totally would have taken Russell Wilson and Michael Thomas for Antonio Brown, and I sent that back to them, but I didn't hear a response until Watson went down, and I was like, so I guess you don't want to make that trade now? So that would have been even more devastating, getting rid of Antonio Brown and then losing Watson. But, yeah, I mean, he was very, very good. I mean, just looking at his stats starting in week 3 against New England, and really his first big game, 301 for 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. Week 4, 283, 4 touchdowns, only 1 pick. Week 5, 261 and 5 touchdowns. Week 6, 225 and 3 passing touchdowns and a pick. Week 8, 402 and 4 passing touchdowns. Not to mention, he also had a rushing touchdown week 2 and 4.
Yeah.
It's just, you don't get quarterbacks who do this.
Especially right out the gate like that.
No, you certainly don't. So he was very impressive. I do think he's certainly going to be drafted as a top 5 quarterback. where he goes likely means I'm not going to have him on any of my rosters, which usually happens with the elite quarterbacks from the year before. I mean, we saw it back in 2016 after Cam Newton's MVP year. Everybody was drafting Newton in the third. And then last year it was everybody drafting Matt Ryan in the third. So it's just whoever was great the year before, they're going to be a third-round pick.
Right. And then they seem to always do bad.
Yep. Yeah. Aside from Aaron Rodgers, who unfortunately just got injured.
Yep.
All right, so Deshaun Watson, I mean, what more can we really say about the guy? He was absolutely amazing his rookie year. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do this year. Once again, another year with Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, who is an absolute superstar. All right, let's go over to someone slightly less exciting and maybe not even relevant for fantasy football in one QB leagues, and that's Mitch Trubisky. So Trubisky at times looked like a veteran quarterback. One of the things that actually really impressed me the first time I watched him play, and I brought this up on, I believe, our Dash radio show, something that you don't see rookie quarterbacks who are mobile do. When they're in the pocket and they get flushed out and start running, what do most of them do? They take one hand off the ball, right?
Right.
Not Mitch Trubisky. He's running around in the backfield, left, right, maybe even rushing for a few yards. Both hands are on the football at all times.
Nice.
That's something you don't see rookie quarterbacks do.
Yeah, nope, that's true.
Yeah, that's why, Mike Vick, who, was amazing for fantasy for a couple of years, whenever he ran, he always had the ball just way out in one hand, and he fumbled a lot.
Right.
And that's something that Trubisky, it's a sign of maturity at the quarterback position for someone who's so young that's just good fundamentals,
Right. He's got good understanding, and I'm really not too down on the guy. I think he's a great player. I just think the question for me around him is the weapons that surround him. I mean, you've got Jordan Howard, who I just love. I think he's amazing. But then past that, I mean, you really don't have any good names over there that I really feel like are confident or good, confident targets that a guy can throw to and actually get good results. So while I like Trubisky, and especially in 2-quarterback leagues, I think he's a very serviceable quarterback, but I just don't like his weapons. I hope they really work on a lot of his weapons so we can really see what this guy has.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I 100% agree. And what I want to see the Bears do is go after a number one wide receiver. They don't need more wide receivers. They don't need Kendall Wright again. They don't need Dontrell Inman again. They don't need another Marcus Wheaton, They need to stop signing these guys who are just, wide receiver 3s and 4s. They need to go after someone, who's already a great talent. What do you think about Jarvis Landry to the Bears?
I think that'd be a good move. I think that'd be a really good move for him.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on how the chemistry went, but yeah.
Right, yeah, and it certainly all depends on the chemistry when players change teams. And when they change teams, they usually don't put up quite as good stats as the year before. But the Bears do need a number one. And they're also likely going to lose Cameron Meredith, who's a free agent.
Right.
Yeah.
Steve said Allen Robinson to the Bears. I'm like, ooh, that would be another good one. I think Allen Robinson as a Bear would be another game changer that they could use.
Yeah, absolutely. They need someone who's an elite talent, or at least like a top 15 wide receiver in the game, in order to just be relevant in that division with the Packers and with the Vikings, and even the Lions still play division rivals very well. Matthew Stafford's a great quarterback. The Lions have good receiving weapons as well. So in order to compete, they need something more.
Yeah, nope, absolutely. And to me, it makes sense for them to make this move because, I mean, that's really the only piece that they're missing. They definitely, I mean, you could tell they missed Alshon Jeffrey last year.
Yeah.
A bunch. Like,
for
big
sure.
time.
Now, Trubisky, he's a guy who's most likely not going to be drafted in any 1-quarterback leagues. But 2-quarterback leagues, especially let's look at a 12-team 2-quarterback league, I would say nearly every single quarterback, if not every single quarterback, gets drafted because, those lucky teams who can get 3 and have that backup for the bye weeks are pretty fortunate. They don't have to make a trade for a quarterback. Where do you think Mitch Trubisky should go in a 2-quarterback league?
I mean, I still think late. I mean, not. I think you're running about. You're only going to have about 5 quarterbacks left when you start talking about grabbing him. That would be my opinion.
All right, so let me read some names to you here. What about Trubisky or Eli?
I'd take Eli.
You take Eli. What about Trevor Siemian? Assuming that Siemian is still the quarterback of the Broncos.
Right. Let's just say everything in this question is the same. I would say I'd actually take Trubisky in that one.
Okay, Trubisky over Siemian. Oh, let's go ahead and I keep scrolling down the list and I was like, oh, these guys aren't even going to play. Trubisky or Flacco?
Ooh, I think I like Flacco.
I think I would lean that way as well. Andy Dalton and Marcus Mariota. Kind of down years for both guys.
Right, and I think I like both of them better too.
Okay.
I mean, let's say, again, the thing that causes my hesitation is the weapons he has around him. So if they can improve on those weapons, that changes everything for him.
Yep, I would certainly agree with that. I do think Trubisky has the potential to finish as a top 15 quarterback. I don't think he will unless the Bears can address, the lack of wide receiver talent. But Trubisky by himself has the talent to be a top 15 wide receiver, maybe not wide receiver, quarterback.
Yep, no, I completely agree with that. I think, like you said, I mean, the fundamentals, the way he moves the ball, his pocket presence, his pocket awareness, all these things are all A-pluses to me. So, I mean, yeah, you give him, you address that situation and you give him somebody to throw the ball to. I think he could easily become a top 15.
And I do think Adam Shaheen is going to be a sleeper tight end this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it, especially Zach Miller being gone.
He's going to be maybe a little like George Kittle was last year.
Yep.
I think Shaheen with Trubisky for another year, I think it's going to be great. All right, that is going to wrap it up for the show today, guys. Thank you for tuning in. A couple things before we go. We are giving away a signed Michael Crabtree jersey. All you have to do is go to iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play or wherever you listen, leave us a nice review, take a screenshot of that review, and email that to us, sleeperwire@gmail.com, with your name, and we're going to randomly pick a winner at the end of the month. Because, we love you guys who listen and enjoy the show each week, and, we like to have these giveaways from time to time to give back to you guys. So make sure you leave a nice review for us, get that Michael Crabtree jersey, at least get your name in the running for the Michael Crabtree jersey because it would be super cool to have. Also, follow us on Twitter at Sleeper Show. You can find Mike on there at Dr. Kane21, and I'm on there at CMOR Sleeperwire. You can also find us on Sleeperbot at Dirty Jobs and Professor Chris, and Dirty Jobs and Professor Chris on the Fantasy Life app as well. That's going to wrap it up for us.
That is correct.
Yeah, yes, thanks for joining me, Mike.
Yeah, I had fun, man. And we got to do this more often, this mocking. Yeah, we got Steve on the line, too. To me, I can hear some metal in the background. I think we got to be getting close, right?
Yes, absolutely. I should mention that once we get a little bit more into the off season, we like to do this live show where we mock draft with other people, usually on fantasyfootballcalculator.com, and we actually have a live radio show where we're talking about the mock draft and listening to metal at the same time. So for all you metalhead fantasy football fans, come join me and our producer Steve because we both love metal and it is a good time. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the show. Thanks for listening, guys. We will catch you next time.
Night.